Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 201 of the With Her Two Hands podcast, celebrating women who build, fix, and make the things that make the world go round with her own two hands. I am your host, Bogi, and I am thrilled for tonight's episode. We have got a really awesome guest for you guys to meet. She is a fifth-year apprentice plumber out of New York. She is also has a very dynamic past. She's done a number of different things throughout her life, from welding to owning her own business. We're going to find out more details about all of her past lives and past careers in just a little bit. Before we dive in and bring her on, I want to do a quick thank you to our sponsor for tonight's episode, Drive Time, without whose support we would not be able to keep doing this series. So I'm very grateful to them. And more importantly, for all of the other work that they do behind the scenes to help support women in the trades and bring more women into specifically the automotive industry. So big thank you to them. Their contact info links are down below if you definitely want to check them out, whether you're looking for a new to you car or whether you're looking for a new place to call your home for your job. Definitely go check them out. And most importantly, thank you guys for being here each week to meet these incredible women, to hear their stories, to be inspired by them, to hear about their challenges and how they have overcome those challenges and celebrate along with them. If you're new here, welcome. Glad to have you. There's 200 past episodes that you can dive into, which means 200 incredible women to be inspired by. This used to be a series on Instagram. It was a live stream called Trades Lady Happy Hour. So every Monday, I release a new archive episode from its past life. And every Wednesday, we have a new live stream episode over here on YouTube. And of course, you can listen anytime, anywhere you get your podcasts. Make sure you hit like, hit subscribe, leave comments down below. The more you do that, the more you interact with these episodes, the more chances there are that the right person will find this episode when they need to see it. The more likely it is for a young woman to see these episodes and think, that looks really cool. That's something I'd like to try. Or I've always wanted to do that. If she can do it, maybe I can too. So thank you guys for being here, for tuning in and helping us spread the good word that women can and do excel in the trades. And we need more ladies in the trades. It is a great place to create a career. It is a great place to create a life for yourself. And tonight we have a guest who has done just that. I'm very excited to introduce you guys to her. So without further ado, let's bring on Miss Brooke Nichols. Hello, how are you?
Hey, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for saying yes. I know you didn't know me from Adam when I kind of showed up on your Instagram DMs and was like, hey girl.
Like, hey.
and then I heard your accent. So guys, I love the fact that, like, first of all, one of the first things that you told me, Brooke, was that you were like trying to get away from smartphones. And I'm like, yes, that's awesome because we need less of that in the world. But you left me a voice memo in Instagram rather than a regular memo or a regular, message. And I was like, she's got a New York accent. We're going to get along just fine.
I'm told that everyone sounds like they have an accent. I don't feel like I have an accent.
Well, it's all perspective. I escaped New York without getting an accent somehow.
Oh, all right. That's not good for you.
Well, I don't know. Every once in a while it comes out. Everyone, like when I'm really tired or really angry or I've had too much to drink, that's when it comes out.
Usually during different emotions when the accent comes out.
Yes, exactly. All right. So, tell the fine folks at home who you are, what you do, where you're from.
Right on. So I'm a plumbing apprentice with Plumbers Local 200 here on Long Island, and I'm going into my fifth year plumbing apprenticeship. So I'm doing that and just getting through the program. I have some goals that I want to do after I turn out of my apprenticeship program. I have a background in welding, which is how I got started in the trades, and then I kind of segued into the plumbing world. I wanted something that AI can't take over and that a skill set you can take anywhere. So that's why I really got involved in plumbing, but that's currently where I'm at right now.
That's awesome. I so agree with you on that. It's what I always say about the trades. Like, nobody can take that away from you. Once you learn it, right? It's that knowledge that's in your hands that you can never, ever have taken away. It can't get outsourced, can't get AI'd.
Exactly.
I love it. So, why did you leave welding? Did you feel like welding was at risk?
So I like welding. I actually have I just literally just found out this week. I have a like an eye disorder. It's like central heterochromia. It's like where you have like different color eyes. It looks cool. Like you have like I have green, blue, and brown, but it's like very. I always for the last couple of years it's been getting worse and worse. I'm like, why am I a vampire? Like, why can't I like go outside without ever wearing sunglasses, even when it's darker out, I still wear sunglasses. And I just found out about that. So they're like, you can still weld, but you probably can't be behind a hood 8 hours a day. I have the hood on the highest setting, and it's just something that it's a very like a lot of people with light eyes have it, but this specific condition is it's just more I don't want to say aggressive, but it's just you're more sensitive. But truthfully, that was one of the reasons. I'm like, well, I feel like as I get older, this is going to be a problem. But the second thing is, I really wanted to kind of add on to my tool belt, so to speak. Welding's awesome. I was actually a TIG welder. I'm a very good TIG welder, aluminum and steel, stainless steel, and I also stick weld as well. But I really wanted something that I'm like, you know what? Like I need something that's because welding's awesome. You can do side work with that, but plumbing, there's systems that you can't replace that only plumbing can do. So I'm like, I really want something that is like solid, economy proof that I can really grow with, that I can take and I can, do other things with. And that's really why I got into it. But I'm still a welder at heart. I still weld. I'm taking my certification this year in my program. So it's just something that I know I can't be behind the hood every day.
That's so crazy. And it's not anything that was caused by welding, right? This is a hereditary or
No, I
just
was
a
born with
light
it.
eye.
Yeah, I was born with it. I just didn't. My eye doctor was like, "You didn't realize you had that." I was like, "No, I'm Irish. I thought I had it. That's what I thought it was." But yeah, it wasn't. It's just so a lot of people don't really need to worry about it because they're not working with literal beams. But where it comes to TIG welding, like the arc is so bright, and I'm like, there's something more to this. So that's why I'm kind of like, let me pull back a little bit, still utilize my skill set where I can, but kind of do something different.
Okay. That's smart. That makes sense. And I'm sorry to hear that. I can only imagine what that must be
Just
like.
means I wear sunglasses and people think I'm a vampire. That's really all that is. That's it.
Well, I meant more the like not being able to do this thing that you love.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
And you can still do it, right? Just not all the time.
Not all the time, yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Awesome. So how did you get into welding to begin with? How did that or get into the trades? Why the trades?
So it's like a kind of a long-winded backstory, but I actually I have obsessive compulsive disorder, and I got diagnosed with Tourette syndrome when I was a little kid. And it was hard for me to stay in like I was like 12 years old. It was hard for me to stay in like a public school setting. So I actually got moved to a special education program, and this program, well, I was in one school, got moved to another school. The second school did half day vocational, half day learning. So I was able to go to school half the day, and then the other half learn a trade. Now, because I was getting into this program, I think at this point I was like 14. I was getting into this program in like October after everyone already had their classes set. The only two I could pick from was cosmetology and welding. And I remember being like, they were already putting me in cosmetology. I was like, no, what's welding? And they're like, no, you don't want to do that. So of course, I'm like, no, I want to do that now. Now I want to do that. Get me in there.
Wait, you're telling me I can't? What?
That's 100% literally what it was. That was what it was all about. And then it kind of just started my journey. I found out my grandfather would pass away when I was younger. He was a welder. So I'm like, oh, it's kind of like in my blood. And then the more that I did it, the more I saw you could do with it, artistic fabrication, all that. I really enjoyed it. And, I just became very good at it. And women, I'm sure you know this, but we have better eye-hand coordination than men. So like, we are fantastic welders. A lot of people don't realize that, but I just picked up the skill set and I really enjoyed it. And then I did it for years. And then I kind of segued into a different business when I started having my kids. I had my oldest daughter when I was 20. So I got out of the trades for a while and then jumped back into it, in my early 30s.
Okay. All right. Awesome. And fascinating that the school that they put you in was a trades-based school. Was that like that's not what I'm used to hearing, right? Like when kids are taken out of the traditional, quote unquote, taken out of the traditional school system because of whatever reason, it's generally not to go into a trades-based school. Was that a choice that your parents made, that you made? Like, how did that wind up happening?
No, so BOCES is an I don't know if you're familiar with it. I'm sure in your states they have different types of educational programs for special education, but this in particular, a lot of they want to have you build skill sets regardless of disabilities or regardless of, let's say, maybe you have some type of behavior modifications that you have to work on. Like, there were a lot of kids with different backgrounds, group homes, things like that. So they did half day schooling, half day vocational. That was part of the program of this specific BOCES that I was going to. So it just happened to work out that the campus that they put me on had a technical center and it had a career center. So it was really cool too. And it's unfortunate that a lot of that funding gets cut because you can learn how to, horticulture, you can learn, childcare, you can learn how to cook. I remember on school breaks, we would go, when we have lunch or something, we would go to the career center and we'd see all the people who were chefs, all the kids that want to become chefs, and they're baking these like sick cookies and like there's really going all out, and even with the welding program, they had plumbing. Ironically, which is really funny, the last year, my senior year, they moved me to plumbing. And they're like, well, we want you to do plumbing. And I was like, I'm not a plumber, I'm a welder. Put me back in welding. So it was really funny how that worked out because ironically, kicked the can down the road a decade and I'm a plumber. But it was just funny how that worked out. But no, I think it's an interesting program. It's unfortunate that that's not something that people do more, like schools do more, because you really, especially as a teen, that kind of sticks with you. Like that was a trade that was a skill set that I've been carrying through my life,
Oh yeah, 100%. I am familiar with BOCES. I didn't realize that there was a component of taking kids that were having challenges. Like I thought, I knew it was a trades-based program, but I didn't know that there was that component to it. And that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if they still do that. I mean, I know they do. I actually just ironically got a pamphlet yesterday from it for adult education in BOCES, but I also graduated in 2005. So it's, you're talking long time.
It's not that long.
A while ago.
That's not that long ago.
Yeah, true, yeah,
I'm older than you. But yeah, no, it's a shame so many of these programs lose their funding, although there are, like, BOCES is a strong one. I know there's a couple of other states that have some really strong CTE programs, and then other states and other cities and municipalities that like don't have anything, and it's so unfortunate because it is a place where kids can thrive and create such a great life for themselves.
Absolutely.
So all right, so you go into welding. Was there any like pushback from your family when you were wanting to go into the trades versus cosmetology? Or
no,
okay.
I don't even think I told them. No, they just, it was, I'm just being honest. I don't even think. What the problem was too is, if I'm being transparent, I've always been like a fighter. So I've been into fit fights, whatever. So like in this cosmetology class, there were girls that I fought their friends in the other schools. So there was, because I was bullied a lot, and unfortunately, you get into a situation where you're bullied or you become the bullier. And also there were, in this first school that I went to, there were a lot of kids that like had, they had a lot of problems. Like they had all like, on all different ranges of the spectrum, Down syndrome, autism, all this stuff. And people would make fun of them. And then I would bully them back. Like I'd be like, no, don't, leave them alone, like, so I always felt like I was fighting other people's battles. So no, my parents, they were just like, just stay in school, just do the right thing, and that's how that was. Because my Tourette's was really bad when I was younger. As I got older, it's better, and you can't really tell. The OCD is atrocious, but I mean that's just like my quirk now. It's just who I am. But yeah, you get. Unfortunately, that's just a side effect of having to deal with going to school and having an impairment.
Gosh, I did not know that this was going to be the topic that we were going to end up discussing today, but this is such a huge thing. And I want to scratch at this a little bit, if that's okay with you, and
absolutely
dig a little bit deeper. Because I feel like one of the things that we fight in the trades, and please tell me if you disagree here, but like, I feel like we fight this stereotype from the broader society that says the trades are full of the not so smart kids, the kids that couldn't get into college, the troublemakers, and that like we find, at least I know when I was going to high school auto shop and whatnot. Like the guidance counselors, they didn't recommend auto shop to the good, smart kids. They recommended them to the troublemakers that they wanted to get out of the classroom, right? And
Yeah.
it's just such a fascinating concept to me that, like, to your point, like you were this kid who like had some challenges, not because you were a bad kid. You had some learning challenges. You were defending other kids that were having learning challenges. You kind of it put you into this box of like the fighter, the challenged kid, right?
Yeah.
And the minute that you got put into a situation where you were given opportunity to like focus that energy, you were able to thrive and create an amazing career for yourself and turn into like this fantastic human being that you are now. And it's
I don't think so.
I think so. I've been following you on social. I think you're pretty fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
And you've created a great life for yourself, and you have job security, and you can support yourself, and you can support your kids, and these are all like wonderful things, and yet it's looked down on by our society. Like there's so much to unpack within that. I mean,
I'll actually say something. So my kids, because of my upbringing, you know, I a very poor Catholic family household, but we always had each other. My father passed away. He always said, he's like, doesn't matter what you have financially, is like, we had each other type thing. So that's how I always grew up. But because of my upbringing, I always said, like, and being bullied and things like that, I was like, my kids are going to have a different education. So my children actually go to private school. But what's funny is that a lot of people, when they find out I'm a plumber, they're trying to assess what went wrong in my life, that I would go to. I was like, no. This was a conscious effort, because I was also in a business that I was making a lot of money. I was doing a lot, you know what I mean? So it was like, I segued into this intentionally, you know? So it's just funny. You're right. To your point, people think like, oh, you must have messed your life up somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, probably have, you know, multiple baby daddies and all, you know what I'm saying? It's just like all the things that people think, you know, it's crazy. It's such a negative connotation, especially when you're a woman going into the field.
Yeah, it is interesting. Although, ironically, I think a lot of the women in the field consciously chose it, whereas a lot of men in the field did fall into it. Either dad did it, or they didn't know what else to do, so they just wound up in it. But the women that I know in the field, most of them are like, I chose this. I pursued this path intentionally, and it's so very different than what society thinks. But there's also this whole like layer of, God, if we could just get rid of the negative connotation and the negative assumptions about the trades, because it hurts our kids so much, right? Like there's so much opportunity that I always quote a friend of mine as a teacher, and he said this, and I was like, yes, 100%. He said, it's not how smart are you, it's how are you smart.
I like that. Yeah.
And it's so perfect. And it's so true that like every kid is smart in some way. And it's just finding what that is. And rather than us labeling them as the troublemakers or the challenged or the whatever, is instead like finding how are they smart and finding the thing that's going to allow them to excel.
Well, because we're so conditioned to put people into boxes. That's the situation. We're so conditioned, you know, if you do this, then you must do this, or you know what I mean? Like it's radical. That's why, you know, especially for women getting into the field, or they're in the field and they're making moves, like that's why it's so important that there is some type of representation for us, because there is such a negative connotation. But even, and to your point, even like with guys, like I hear it on the job site all the time, like be proud of who you are, be proud of your work, be proud of your story. You know, who gives a damn what you do? You know, like who cares if you're a plumber, if you're an electrician? That's awesome, because guess what? When people start, I always say this about AI, when people start losing their jobs, they get it, or they're getting it outsourced or whatever, which we've been dealing with for the last 40 years. People don't realize that, but we have. Look at all the, you know, the tech jobs that are getting outsourced to India. There's 1.5 million graduates for tech colleges in India. You can't keep up with that. You can't compete with that. You know, so when you're an electrician, you know, a plumber specifically, you're using your hands, you're understanding systems. You can't replicate that. You're a valuable source of information. You're a tradesman, you're a tradeswoman, like, you know your stuff. You know what I'm saying? So be proud of that. That's what needs to come back. Blue collar, it can't be so demonized.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And literally the world stops functioning without us. Right? Like all of it comes to a screeching halt without trades folks.
Well, that's why I said I had an interview actually with News 12. It's a local radio station here, or news station. And I said, I was like, that's what separates us from the third world, is plumbing systems, electrician, you know, like that literally separates us. That's what the have and the have nots is, our water systems, you know, so it's a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember I posted something on social media about that at one point, and this guy commented like upset that I was asserting that like plumbers and electricians and tradesfolks were just as valuable as like any other career path. And he's like, I'm sorry, but a brain surgeon has more value in society than a plumber. And I'm like, unless that brain surgeon can't wash his hands in a sink before performing brain surgery.
Or medical gas in his operating room. You know, how is he
Yes.
gonna? You know what I'm saying? What are you gonna try to like pop pouches? You know, like how are you gonna drug the clientele? You know, it doesn't make any sense. That
Yep, exactly.
people think plumbing is all sinks and toilets. It's medical. I'm learning medical gas this year. It is intense. You know,
Yeah.
you cannot screw up. You have to be. You have to have some semblance of intelligence to not cross wires that will literally kill a patient. You know, so it's like if people just don't understand, it's their own lack of understanding.
Yeah, that's huge. Thank you for bringing that up. That you're right. Like, especially with plumbers, right? The stereotype is toilets and sinks, and that's it, right?
Yeah,
And there's so much more to plumbing, and there's so many different ways of being a plumber, right?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So,
You have underground systems. You have your power plants. You have, like I said, medical gas. People never get their hands dirty. You have new construction. You never touch anything. You know, it's like you have service. You go into people's houses. There's so much. Plumbing is such an integral part of our society. It is the health and sanitation of our nation. That's literally what it is.
so what type of all of those things? What type of plumbing are you doing, and why did you pick it?
So I'm in the union with Plumbers Local 200. So I kind of do wherever job they send me to. That's where I'm going. But
Okay,
I'm doing new commercial right now.
okay. Do you enjoy that? Is that where you'd like to be? Or I'm assuming as an apprentice, you get to kind of experience lots of different things and kind of explore the trade a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm learning, so it's kind of like I don't really have a preference yet because I haven't seen it all. You know, I kind of did like the idea of working in hospitals. I like that it's clean and things like that. But honestly, I want to see the whole scope because my end goal is to become a union contractor. So I'm trying to see everything, trying to get my hands into everything, and then kind of take it from there. But I don't really have a preference. They want me to shovel one day, I'll do it. They want me to core drill one day, I'll do it. Fire stop one day, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to turn down work. You know.
That's awesome. That's a great mindset. How long is the apprenticeship? You said you're a fifth year. So how long is the program?
It's 5 years.
Oh,
So
okay.
the program's 5 years. To become a licensed plumber in the state of New York, it's 7 years. So I still have a couple of years to get to where I want to go. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm learning as much as I can going into this year. I have a lot to juggle in my life, so I'm concerned about how much like the 5th year is really going to kill me. I have my STAR exam. I have the med gas test. I have all these different things I have to do. But the welding certification. But I'm just going into this year and being like I'm just gonna put the pedal to the metal, so to speak, and just bust ass.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exciting. And congratulations on making it this far into your program. And
Thank you. I'm shocked. I thought I was going to quit a couple times.
I think we all think about quitting things a lot of times. It's whether we do it or not.
Man, I'm done with this. You know what I mean? Like,
what made you want to quit in those times?
oh man, it's so much. Like I have 3 daughters, and my youngest daughter, I had after my youngest daughter was born, I had really bad postpartum for years. Like it just was not something I was snapping out of. And I remember, and I also had sold my business. I was kind of having like a big life change, and I had Hashimoto's that was undiagnosed. I had all these like issues, and getting into the field from having ran a company for 10 years and then becoming an apprentice was one of the most humbling experiences of my life. And it was just like people didn't take me seriously. I didn't feel good about myself. I was like really self-conscious. I was just really depressed. I just wasn't having a good time. And then I'm getting thrown into this world where people they don't want you there. I dealt with that. A lot of guys didn't want me there. I didn't know anything, and I felt like I was kind of thrown to the wolves. So a couple times I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna put my head down. I'm gonna work, and this is about me. And I don't give a damn what these people think. They're gonna talk about me anyway. Might as well give them something to talk about, So it's like that was kind of my attitude. And then as things started to shift, I became more confident, and I just kind of let things slick off of me. So now it doesn't even bother me at all. I just go back with them, So but that was really why. It was just very, and then even just like with my life, with my kids, like it's very demanding, like it was a lot. And I was extremely overwhelmed. So I was like, maybe I can't do this, and plus in my local, it's for plumbing specifically. I don't know what the stats are, but it's one of the hardest trades for women to stay in, and I know women that have tried to be plumbers and then they leave. It's difficult. The work's difficult. The culture is difficult sometimes. And it was just hard. So I just found I was like a couple times, I'm like, I could do something else. And I'm like, I'm here, I'm sticking it out. I'm not a quitter. And that's it. And I'm glad I did.
I'm glad you did as well. And oh my gosh, woman, yeah, I could understand you wanting to give up at various times. That is a lot that you were dealing with all at the same
Yeah.
time. And to pull yourself out of any one of those things is a challenge, right? Like postpartum is a real thing that a lot of people don't like to acknowledge is a real thing,
Yeah.
and can be really brutal, just that alone. But to be pulling yourself out of that, dealing with Hashimoto's, which is a serious challenge for people, and be starting a new career and all of the new things, like that's intense. That is intense.
And it's just funny because a lot of people too, like, because when I started the program, I was like 60 pounds overweight, and then I had lost all the weight, and even just becoming more confident. And people are like, oh, you changed. I'm like, no, I've always been like this. Allow me to reintroduce myself. You know what I mean? Because you guys slept on me for a long time, and now I have to be that chick that is going to motivate other women that they can do whatever the hell they want to do, and not, you know what I'm saying, and not be held back by certain things. So that was, I was like, I always told myself, I was like, if I can get through this, with the postpartum, I was like, I can get through anything. And that's just been my theory, and I'm just friggin' running with it,
I love it. So you've teased a couple of times about this business that you used to have and that you sold. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's like tapping into another echelon, another world. It was a diaper service. So I'm a big environmentalist, and I was looking into, cloth diapers with my oldest daughter, and I found California, because they're ahead of us in green technology, things like that. And I'm like, I want to use a diaper service, and they didn't have any. And then I'm going on play dates, things like that with women. I'm meeting a lot of women that, whatever, we're just talking, and I'm kind of getting like an idea. I was like, maybe if I start my own thing, get into like the laundry service, and then it was supposed to be small, but then it just as the years went on, I started to do compostable diapers, which are disposable diapers that you can compost. I did a study on Long Island with this group upstate. We were going to open up a composting facility in New York. There is one upstate, but yeah, it just grew into this beast. I had hundreds of clients. It was just a lot. And I just knew, like, as I, after I had my youngest daughter and things like that, I knew I kind of wanted to segue out of the baby industry. But I did that for 10 years. I had a podcast. I interviewed people from all around the world talking about, that's why it's funny that it kind of married into plumbing, because I was doing kind of plumbing with having a diaper service, having laundry systems and a laundry setup, and learning how to make my own detergents and things like that. It just became huge. I couldn't do it anymore, so I sold out. And that was, and then I closed up shop, and it was a cool part of my life. It was very interesting. I met all different types of people, different types of celebrities, just a lot of things that I don't really talk about with people. But when they're always like, oh, you're well spoken, I'm like, yeah, but I talk to all different types of people. I dealt with all different types of people, so it was just a cool experience.
That is so insanely cool. And I love that it just started out as like just this little kernel of an idea and then turned into something so massive. Wow, you've lived like 14 different lifetimes in your short life.
I'm trying, you only have one life.
Have you always been this person that like just dove into things head first, like going, the welding, the diaper company, now plumbing, like you are like all in?
Yeah, because I'm compulsive.
Okay. Okay, fair.
That's why.
Okay, fair enough.
Because we only live once, and like I'm someone that, especially as I get older, like if I have opportunities come to me, if I have things that happen, I'm like, I just kind of want to entertain or just do whatever. I never want to like leave any stone unturned. Do you know what I'm saying? So like that's why even with the diaper service, it was only supposed to be so I could be with my kids and like this small little operation, and I wound up having this huge laundromat. I had people working for me. I had insane stuff, like just crazy. That was such a wild time in my life. But yeah, I just jumped into it. I did the best I could. I poured my heart into it. I got an offer from my competition, and I just took it. I was like, all right, this is a sign I need to get out. Let me get back into the trades. Because even though I had a diaper service, people always asked me about welding. It was always like, that just stuck out to people. Oh, you still weld? I was like, no, I haven't welded in years, but it was always like, I want to get back to it, and that's why I got back into the field.
Interesting. Okay. Well, first of all, congratulations. Like that is no small feat. I think like that's like the American dream, right? To like have a kernel of an idea, to build it up into something big, so much so that somebody wants to buy it from you.
It was my
And
competition, so I felt like it was a loss. But now that I look back, I'm like, no, it was good for me. You know, it was good.
well, it's I think that's a huge win. Like your competition bought you because you were a threat,
Right. And they
right?
wanted to expand into my territory. That was really what it was, you know. So
Yeah. So that's a that's
it's a lot
huge.
to know about it.
I think that's phenomenal and definitely something to be incredibly proud of. That is so cool. What a fascinating life you have lived. Okay, so welder turned diaper service entrepreneur turned plumber. Um, and you brought up this idea that like with the diaper service, you were doing a little bit of plumbing and dealing with that kind of stuff. Is that part of what kind of brought you into having an interest in that, or is that just ironic and
No, I was never interested in being, it was just ironic because everyone's like, oh, you got to deal with, you know, all types of nasty stuff. And I'm like, I had a diaper service for 10 years. I saw all types of insane, you know what I mean? Like you're dealing with the public, you're dealing with sanitary products. Like you're seeing it already. But no, I was never attracted to plumbing until I got into welding. I was working with this gentleman. He's an older gentleman of age, but he was in this local union and we were talking about it. He's like, you know, you can be a welder in the plumbers union. And I was actually working at a machine shop, which is a totally other thing. And this this gentleman, he owns. He's actually like looking into segueing into something different now, closing this and doing something else. But I'm in the machining world. I do repack pistons, do all that stuff. And you know, we were talking about how plumbing and different trades, like being a mechanic, plumbing, that kind of ties into it, especially when you talk about hydraulic systems. So I really started to see plumbing being a really like important thing to know. But I was actually between becoming a heavy machine operator or becoming a plumber when I decided to get into the unions. And I got accepted to local 138 and I declined it. And then I went into plumbing. I never thought I'd be in plumbing. I wasn't interested in it, but it's such an integral part of society. I'm like, there's money there, you know? So that's why I jumped into it.
what's the other union that you turned down?
It was the heavy machine operators.
That was
So
heavy machine.
I
Okay.
drive the big rigs, and I was criticized by my own plumbing, you know, subordinates, so to speak. Like they were like, "How could you turn that down? It's a sweet gig." I was like, "Yeah, but how's the side work looking? How can I build a business with that? How? I mean, you can get into being a machine shop repairing them, but I'm not a mechanic. I've never been really a mechanic like that, you know. And I always think it's cool when women are into that, but I don't know. That's just different. I was never really into that stuff, you know. But being a plumber, I just saw it's integral and it's AI proof. And I was like, this is if I get into this union because it's hard to get into. I was like, this is a sign. I got into it, so I was like, all right, bet. So I guess I'm a plumber now.
Okay. The plumbers union is difficult to get into?
Yeah, the plumbers union. It's because a lot of people apply, and you know, it's just it just you know you can get into it. It just might take 2, 3, 4 times of applying, and a lot of guys start in the B side, which is service, and they try to get into the A side, which is new commercial because it's more money, and it's just very competitive.
Gotcha. So there's different components within the same union.
Yes, yeah, but we're a small local. I think we only have like 14, 1,500 members, maybe more with the B side, maybe 2,000 or so. But it's not like local one in New York City. Plumbers Union's like 8,000, you know. So it's like we're a small local here.
Where are you located again? Remind me.
Long Island, New York.
Okay, you're in Long Island. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, still New York City, but not New York City.
Yeah. They'd be like, "Oh, so you live in the city?" I was like, "No, but okay."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I used to live in Brooklyn and worked in Long Island, so I'm very
Okay.
familiar with Long Island.
Yeah.
Awesome. Interesting. I have so many questions. I'm like, I almost don't even like my ADHD brain is like, which way do we go? Which squirrel do we chase? Um, one of the things that I find really interesting is that so you were a welder and then you were looking into heavy machine, you were doing machine shop stuff, which you like just kind of barely talked on. I would like to know more about that. But I find it fascinating. You know, we've talked about AI proof and it can't be outsourced and all of that, but there's this other big piece about the trades is like the um compatibility. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, right? But like the skills transfer, right? Like you really can go from one trade to another. And obviously there's a whole nother skill set and there's a whole craft to each of the trades. But there's so much that does cross over, that does carry over from one to the other.
Yeah, well, that's why when being a welder, my idea was to get into the union, becoming a welder. And then I realized, for as important as it is to know welding, it's important to be a mechanic. It's important to know your plumbing system. So that's a crossover, because a lot of people that are welders in the union, which there's not many, but they have work year round, because if there's not a lot of plumbing work, they can do welding work and vice versa, you know? But yeah, especially adding to my tool belt, the one trade, ironically enough, which is funny, that I'm petrified of is being an electrician. Petrified of anything electric. I don't know why. I'm like, I won't touch anything. I'll grab an electrician off the ladder to make him move something that has like no copper in it. It's just like pieces on the ground. I'm like, is this gonna kill me? He's like, oh, you mean the cut pieces on the floor that are not attached to anything? He's like, yeah, that's gonna take you out. You know, like stop wasting my time, damn it. You know. I have a lot of respect for electricians. I'm petrified of electric, but I agree with you to your point. Everything, it kind of blends into each other.
Fascinating, except for electrical, apparently. Yeah. Fascinating.
I think
very interesting.
You're an electrician, because I don't want to mess with you then, because I don't mess with anything electric.
It's interesting. I'm dealing with some electrical stuff at my house right now, and like car electrical doesn't scare me at all. I like 100% like know my jam with car electrical, and a lot of it is the same and a lot of it carries over, but for some reason I'm trying to figure out like, you know, how much my panel can handle, and I'm like, house electrical math is different. Like I don't know, it's just different, and I don't trust it, and the voltage is, there's just so much more of it.
There's like no room for error, you know. For me,
no
I
room.
can't screw up. Like in plumbing, I'll get wet. I mean, of course, you can heights and things like that, but with electric, it's like, yeah, this better be the right. And I have, because of my OCD, it's like I'll obsess about it. It's just not good for me, because I'm like, oh, if I touch this, I'm dead forever. You know, like whatever, just
forever.
It's just unrealistic. That's how I am.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, on most I mean, unless we get into electricals and hybrid, like electric cars and hybrids, but like most of the electric on cars is 12 volts. Like I've been shocked by that. It's not the end of the world, but you're right.
Like blowing up. So I'm not
well,
impressed. You know? So it's
yeah.
Like,
yeah, there's legit reason to be scared, right? Yeah. Like that is a legitimate, not
literally.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, so you mentioned something earlier about plumbing being one of the harder trades to get into as a woman, which I always thought auto mechanics was one of the harder ones as a woman to kind of to stay in, I think is what you said. Like not just to get into the trade, but to stay in the trade, which is a really important distinction. Like there's attracting women to the trades, and then there's retaining women in the trades. Right. And those are two totally different things. So you feel like plumbing is one of the harder ones for women to stay in. I always thought automotive was the harder one. Tell me why.
So I went to Trades Women Build Nations back in 2022 in Vegas, and I'm representing my local for New Orleans this year. Awesome. By myself, so I'm a little nervous about it, but I'm looking forward to it. But when I went there, I met thousands of women, and they had sections where, you know, the trades, you know, women can go or whatever. And electric was popping, tons of electricians for women, even like masonry, carpentry, and the least was plumbers. Like everybody had huge areas, and like we had like maybe 4 rows, you know, and this is for women all around the country, you know, so it was wild to see, and Canada. So it was wild to see, but I think it has to do with the validity or the vitality. I don't know what the right word would be, but for the different like setups with plumbing, like your different environments, you know, you're working in crawl spaces, you're working in basements, you're working outside in the heat, you're working in wet conditions. Like it's a lot. Whereas I feel like with mechanics, I mean, auto mechanics, it's funny that you say that, because I know women in local 138, there's a bunch of women that you have to be a mechanic to be a heavy equipment operator. So it's like, I guess it just depends on the demographic and where you live. But for what I see in my area, it's like, you know, a lot of women, they don't want to deal with all of that, you know, all of those, like just the different scenery, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot, but it's not that we can't do it. And I also think it has to do with, you know, with plumbing, I'm not sure how it works with other trades, but, you know, for my union, like we're there early, and childcare is a huge factor with a lot of women entering the field. Like they know they can make bread, but it's hard for, you know, to juggle the kids and things like that. So, So that's just what I've seen, especially for women that I've talked to. I've talked to women who were in plumbing and then they segue into like electric, or they segue into HVAC, which is a popular one. So I'm not really sure. That's what I surmise though, is that it has to do with like the conditions that we're working in. And also the guys too, like there is a level of, in my personal opinion, in my experience, there's a level of arrogance with plumbers. There is, like, and that's just what I've seen, for men specifically, not women. And versing the electricians, I see it all the time, you know, like we're cool, we're like frenemies, you know what I'm saying? Like, but it's just, there's a level of arrogance. And I've been told so many times, like with service weight being heavy, you know, you're not cut out for this, you're not built for this. Like there's a lot of that kind of talk on the job site. So I don't know if it's just a compilation of things, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, whew, there's so much to talk about there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting. I mean, obviously, like you got this great perspective at the Tradeswomen Build Nations, which is just such a cool event, by the way. Like, I'm so envious. Y'all don't you don't invite mechanics though. What's up with that?
Do you have it? Are you a union?
No.
Okay, if it's the building trades.
It's all unions.
Yeah, and then so it's all union.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see how automotive like would stack up against that. Like if there was like all those like you said, you were able to see a physical representation, right? Like I saw all the electricians, I saw all the plumbers, I saw right. Like
and the heavy equipment operators, the mechanics, the like I said, the masons. I was even surprised to see that. I was like, I never see masons. The iron workers, tons of iron workers, tons of women welders. And you saw it because it was separated in the assembly. It was separated by trades.
Yeah. So interesting. I've always found that automotive was kind of for the same reasons that you pointed out, right? Like not necessarily the work conditions, because we're in, you know, mostly working in shops, but for everything else, like everything that you said, 100% true for the automotive trades. And I always felt like some of the trades, like I see, and maybe it is kind of similar to what you're saying, like the woodworking and contractors and electricians and welders, even I feel like I've seen the women that I've spoken with tend to have more positive experiences of being in the trades, even within mechanics, like helicopter mechanics and airplane mechanics, totally different experience than car mechanics. Yeah. And it's so interesting to me. So plumbers and auto mechanics, we're the redheaded stepchildren of the trades.
Like. I mean, that's just what it feels like. If I say I'm in plumbing, they're like, oh, well, what are you, the receptionist? Like, it's never like that I'm a plumber, you know? And I'm not an apprentice, but that's how it always is. Oh, you answer phones, or you do this, or you do, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, you must not really be working, you know? The things that I get, especially because I'm very feminine as well. Like I have my job, and then it's not like, you know, everybody's got their own style and stuff like that. But I just, as I get older, I hate wearing pants. It's just, I wear dresses everywhere. Like, so a lot of people don't take me seriously because of that. But it is, I let my work speak for itself.
Yeah. Was it a conscious decision to go union versus, I mean, I don't want to like get into like politics here or anything, but like I'm envious because there's really not a lot of options for unions for automotive. There are some, but it's not really the same. And the fact that you have an apprenticeship program, like a 5-year apprenticeship program, to me, I'm super envious of that. Was it conscious for you? Was there ever any thought of like just going the solo route or independent route, or just getting a job as a plumber and learning on the job?
It was a conscious decision to join a union because I was coming from a non-union background, being at the machine shop, and being a machinist. So I love the idea of the unions. There's a lot of politics involved with unions, and I don't agree with everything with them. But when it comes to like having power behind, you know, doing bargaining agreements, that's something a lot of people don't realize. Like that's a heavy weight to have. You know, when you have a union and you want to fight for your wages, you want to fight for better insurance, you want to fight for, you know, PTO or whatever it is, or vacation checks or whatever the situation is, you have power in numbers. You know, and even if you go back, when unions were first established, all the people that fought for unions, you know, like people fought for a 5-day, you know, they fought for an 8-hour workday, because before that you were working sun up to sun down. You didn't have weekends, you didn't have breaks. You know, you couldn't just take off of work without the fear of losing your job. So I think the implementation of unions help the non-union sector out as well, because there's a certain standard that has to be met for basic rights in the workplace. But for me personally, going union was, I'm happy I did it. I've learned a lot. I look forward to staying and becoming a union contractor, but of course it depends on the economy. I'm not against going non-union. It's just, I love the standard that a union sets for workers' rights and implementation of raises and things like that. And just having power in numbers, having a group of people that have your interest in mind because it affects them as well.
Yeah. So beautifully stated. Absolutely. All of that, and formalized apprenticeship programs, formalized training where there's like a clear path to success.
You can learn. That's it,
Yeah. Because there isn't that. I think that's what automotive is lacking. And I've always been envious of. I know in other countries it's a little bit different, but they have more of these kind of apprenticeship programs that are through the government versus through unions. But it's the same kind of concept where it's like you're working and learning at the same time. And automotive doesn't have that in any capacity. And I've always been so jealous. So like you have all of the collective bargaining power, you have all of you have the brotherhood, the sisterhood, the family of the union, and these organized training programs that allow you to go from, to your point, when you started, like you knew nothing. And now here you are excelling, 5th year apprentice, ready to like go out.
I'm just faking it a lot better as well. I mean, because I'm more confident, because of being in the program. I didn't even know what a fitting was. I was like, what's a fitting? And I remember getting like eye rolls, and I'm like, here we go, like it's gonna be a long friggin' apprenticeship, but I have the best apprenticeship program, and in my opinion, in New York State. They're a fantastic school. These teachers bust their ass. They know their stuff. They're very professional, and I feel very grateful that I landed in an apprenticeship program like Plumbers Local 200. But when it comes to even just being in the field, like you're gonna being in plumbing as well. This is what I try to tell people too. Like being in construction, being a mechanic, whatever. You're in the people business. You're dealing with people. So far worse or far more difficult than the work that I'm doing is dealing with people, getting along with them, working with different personalities. Like it's really, that's really where the crux of, I think, whether you succeed or you don't succeed in the trades comes into is getting along with others. And there's this great book that I recommended when I had employees. It's How to Win Friends and Influence Others. And it's just about learning how to deal with people, because then when you deal with people, as being humble, not going in there and swinging things around, being like, oh, I learned this last night, so I can do this better than you. Because a lot of the guys may not have been in school. So it's learning how to have some kind of etiquette. But that's what I'm seeing, whether it be union or non-union, is you got to have people skills. It's so important.
Amen to that. And you are the first person in all of these episodes to bring up How to Win Friends and Influence People. And what a fantastic book. It is a good one. And you're so right. That's not something that we talk about often, but it's a people trade, and dealing with the people and dealing with different personalities is so freaking huge. I just also love how your story and your journey really highlights that like somebody can come from nothing, that there is from nothing as far as knowledge goes, right? And like not knowing anything about plumbing, not knowing anything about any specific trade, and get into a union and get the training and get the skills and get the learning. And New York, I think, is phenomenal. I think New York does a great job. I'm curious, the eye rolling and the like, oh geez, here we go. When you were first starting out, was that from others in the apprenticeship program with you, other colleagues, or like, it sounds like it wasn't the teachers, but am I reading you right?
No,
Hearing you right?
No, it wasn't the school. It was like foremen, other apprentices. Because like I said, like some of these guys, they tried 2-3 times to get in. So they had already been plumbing for years. And, the union said that you don't have to know anything. You can come in those doors not knowing anything, and we'll turn you out into a mechanic. And I took them up on that. I'm like, all right, bet, because I don't know anything. I know nothing. So I hope that you stick by that. And the school did a wonderful job. But getting into the field and taking that energy now with men who been plumbing 20 years, didn't go through the trades program, are set in their ways. Now they have this woman coming up, doesn't know anything, and especially with the climate of just, everything going on. It's like you're already kind of up against the wall. But yeah, I got eye rolls. I had people make fun of me. I've cried on the job. I've had arguments with people. But then when I really put things back into perspective, I'm like, everybody's going through things that you know nothing about. They're on the job site. A lot of men are intimidated by women being on the feet, and they don't know how to handle them. That's just a real thing. They don't know if they can say certain things in front of you, and not even just inappropriate things. I just mean like, oh, can I make a joke without losing my job? Like, and I've talked about this with so many different men, and at the end of the day, they just want to go to work and make, what I'm saying, provide for their family. But I definitely got tons of eye rolls, and I was also very self-conscious. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anybody, and there's another woman who, there's only 4 women, or there's almost only 3 women, because one's going to be leaving in my entire union. And and they have their fathers and things like that. And my dad died when I was 19. So I don't have like a father to like fall back on. They do, and they were plumbers and things. So I was always missing that. So going into the field, I was alone, and I still feel essentially I am alone, but I just try to get along with everybody as much as I can and do the best that I can. And everyone else can kick rocks. And that's really the attitude I think more women need to have.
You mentioned like crying on the job and getting into fights and arguments and whatnot, and having those down times where like it wanted to beat you down, where it was getting under your skin. And I think it's always, we all have those moments. So first of all, thank you for acknowledging that. I think it's really easy to look on the outside and see people when they're at their best, and then assume that it's only you that has those hard times. And so I think it's important for all the ladies out there to hear, like, we all do it. We've all been there. And it's really easy in hindsight to say, I just put my head down and keep focusing and whatnot. But how did you handle those moments? Like in those moments where everything was feeling like it was walls are closing in around you at the job. So much so that you're brought to tears at work. How do you handle it? How do you pick back up and keep going?
So unfortunately for the guy that I had an argument with, I had like a pen and paper, and I had like a notepad, and I was writing down everything he was telling me, because again, I didn't know anything. And this is what you're going to deal with. Some people have no patience, because this is part of putting people in categories. Okay, I can be a certain way with this person. So, it's just like knowing how to deal with people. But I remember when he told me, he's like, you'll just never get it. And he's like, you're not cut for this. You should go back to an office. He started just berating me. And I just started crying. I was like sobbing. And then I snapped out of it and started hurling PVC at him. So that wasn't the best way to go about it, if I'm being honest. He's like, I'm sorry. He's like, can you still work with me? I was like, nope, picking up scraps, throwing it at him. I was like, is this the kind of person that you want, But not the best way to deal with it. When I went to my car, I went to my foreman. I said, you can fire me. That was really my break being in the field. I was like, you guys can fire me. You think I'm a joke, whatever. I was like, and then my foreman smoked like 2 cigarettes, because he's like, I don't want to deal with this, But I was like, you're supposed to train me. I was like, I'm an apprentice. It doesn't matter how old I am. It doesn't matter that I'm a woman. You're supposed to train me. And I went to my car and I sat down, and I actually carry. I don't have it. Oh, it's being used on my computer. But I carry a book. And I write in my book every day. And this was advice that was given to me when I first joined the program. Write how your day is going. And I've been writing for years. I've always done a journal and things like that. But what I do is I assess why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I always refocus on my goals. Like, doesn't matter what this jackass says, doesn't matter what this person says, doesn't matter the look that I got, or whatever. It matters why I'm doing what I'm doing. So the way that I've gotten myself out of situations like that is by just remembering why I'm there. Now I'm going to, not even just to prove these people wrong, but that wasn't why I got into it. That's just an added booster. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was just to boost me up. But that's really, it's always just bringing it back to myself and seeing why I'm doing what I'm doing, looking at how it helps my family, looking about my future, looking at the things that I want to do, and just remembering that, and not letting these people get into my head. Because trust me, they try, and you cannot give them any power, and you have to be safe within your own power. I get roasted on the job site now, and I embrace it. Because it's just like, we just joke around now, especially with having OCD and things like that. Like, I join in with them. I joke around. Throw things back at them. Like, you have to have that confidence, but it takes time, and it takes just centering yourself and knowing why you're doing it, and keep moving forward.
Truth. What a fantastic tip too. I love the idea of journaling. I'm a huge journaler. I am a huge proponent of that. And and just having that with you always to be able to write that down and refocus yourself. I like the way you say that, just to like regroup, refocus, set yourself back on task.
And I use this brand called Hobonichi. It's a Japanese journal, and it's a whole year as a page a day. And my biggest thing is like, and there was this speaker, Jim Rohn, who I loved. He was like the real like OG type of motivational people, and he's not like the gummy ones today. Like he actually like did it, you know, he was real anyway. But he said, he's like, how do you go back and look back at your progress if you don't record your day? If you don't, you know, so like I record my days from when I first started the program to now, and I go back and I'm like, damn, like I got so far, you know, and that helps build those confident blocks that I feel like a lot of people are missing, because the time's going whether you record it or not, you know, so you want to record as much as you can. A huge, even if you're not in the trades, I'm a huge proponent of journaling, like you said.
Yes, absolutely. It's so easy to get stuck in like just seeing the trees, right? Like we live our day-to-day life and we're in it, right? We're in the minutia of what's in front of us. And it isn't until you pull back and can look at from whence we came, right? Like where it started, what's changed since. It's that in and of itself is such a powerful, powerful thing. Do you ever go back and reread them? Are you like do you like to look through?
All the time. I do it all the time. Like, especially if I'm having like a challenging situation, whether it be like my relationship or whatever the situation is, I go back and I'll read, oh, I remember this, or I remember this, or I can't believe I thought this was the last day I would be on this job, or I can't believe this situation turned out the way it did. And sometimes I'll even go back and I'll write a note. Like if I think like one day is a horrible day, then I'll be like, oh, I learned so much this day. This helped me 6 months down the road, coming here from August 8th, 2024. Like I do that all the time. I'm big on that because it builds a story, you know? All of us, doesn't matter where we come from. We all have a story. And the fact that it's not like, people make fun of me. They're like, oh, you're writing in your diary. I was like, actually I am. How do you spell your name? You know, like I just joke around, just bust chops. But like everybody has a story. And you know, when you get older, if you're blessed with the gift of age, like you're going to want to read that, you know, you're going to want to see how all the things that you went through, because you can't always rely on your memory.
Blessed with the gift of age. That was a beautiful statement right there.
It's true though.
It is. No, it's hugely true. But I love that you just like that's a beautiful statement. You have some incredible wisdom. You've been through so many things. You've had so many careers. You've had so many lives wrapped up in this one life of yours. And you're not even that old. You're a baby still.
37.
You're a baby. Oh my goodness.
I still feel good. I know women are supposed to hit the wall and crumble at 25, but I can't wait I'm blessed for another 50 years, God willing, you know, like I can't wait. And you only live, and why do you want to use that? Wait till you're 60 and be like, I wish I had more confidence when I was in my, you know what I'm saying? Like I tell my daughter, I have 3 daughters. I tell them every day, I'm like, this is the youngest and the oldest you'll ever be. You have to embrace that because we're not making it out alive, you know?
Truth. That is one thing that is for certain about life, is nobody gets out alive. How old are your girls?
My oldest is turning 17 this month, and I have a 15-year-old and a 10-year-old.
Oh my gosh. So you have your hands full.
Yes. And then I go to work and I deal with men who are also children. So there's that.
And I always used to say that when I had my business, is that I didn't run a business. I ran an adult daycare center. Because it's really all it is.
And I'll say this much. My experience though, especially right now with the guys in the job, like there are guys that I have issues with, but when you get past that exterior, like everybody wants to have a good time on the job. Like nobody wants to really bust chops. I mean, some people do. Some people are awful. Some people, whatever. But that's in anything, whether you're a secretary, a doctor, whatever. But at the end of the day, people are just trying to do their jobs, get the job done, go back home in one piece. You know, so that's why I say with the book, How to Win Friends and Influence Others, when you really start to ask people about their lives, so many people have such amazing stories. You know, they do. And for whatever reason, society beats them down. Social media makes them feel like they're not good enough. They don't share it. And they should, because when I talk to some of these guys, like one guy I work with, he was a sick drummer back in like the 60s. Like all these people have crazy lives, you know, it's just, you learn so much about people. So that would be my advice to women going on the field. Like, I'm not saying you have to chop it up and be best friends with these people, but everybody's got a story, you know, and sometimes they just want to be heard. That's my opinion.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And it goes back kind of almost full circle to what we were talking about with, you know, your high school program and experiences. Like every kid, every human being has something to offer, has something to bring to the table, has some like strength or skill set or story or whatever. And it's finding it, and it's giving them space to be that. And I think, unfortunately, there's like that 2% within the trades particularly, but within any workplace. The 2% gives a bad name to the rest of the 98%, right? 98% of the guys that we work with just want to go to work. They just want to make a paycheck for their family. They just want to have a safe environment. They want the same things that anybody wants, right? We want a safe work environment. We want to feel respected. We want to feel valued. We want to have an opportunity to grow. And unfortunately, it's like that small minority that makes a bad name and creates the bad work environment for everybody else sometimes, that like makes it so that you can't just be you, and where they do feel beaten down and like they can't share their story, and like their differences won't be accepted. And it's unfortunate that we do that to people in our society.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are running out of time already, because that's what happens, because just like life, you blink and it's gone, and all of a sudden it's over. So I feel like there's so much more that we haven't touched on. Is there another hidden career path that you've had as well, another like past life that you haven't shared yet?
Yeah, I met my husband in a martial art class, like this aggressive martial art class. So I trained for that. And then we escaped that. Yeah, so that's just a side note.
Okay.
Yeah, let me see. One thing, I'll end it with this, okay? So like, if people say a lot of things about the trades and stuff like that, and it being difficult, and it is difficult, but anything that's difficult is worth fighting for, you know? And I think that there's something to be said about being put in a position where you become humble, because a lot of us do live in ivory towers, and it's not, and social media, that's a whole other topic, but like, I feel like there's false identities around and things like that. But when it comes to like putting yourself in a situation where you're forced to grow, where you're forced to be humble, where you're forced to really see yourself, I don't think is a bad thing. That's why I think anybody should try to learn something that they don't know from, like from Jump Street, I didn't know anything about plumbing, you know? And if you're someone that really wants to build themselves, their character, even if you don't stay with it, I think learning a trade, a skilled trade specifically, and being vulnerable for that, especially with other people, is such a character building experience, you know, and it's especially being humble. It's something that I feel like when I walked into that hall, and now, you know, this year leaving, it's completely changed my perspective in a lot of different areas. So that would be my advice. You know, you take everybody else's experience and you know, but don't marry that, because your experience might be different. But don't be scared to do something different that's going to better your skill set in your life in the future.
Preach it. 100%. Could not agree more. That is fantastic. I think it's anything, right? Try something that you think is scary, because what it does for you personally is huge, right? That's what I teach in my basic car care classes is like, you know, even if you never do this ever again, just knowing that you can and pushing yourself to do something that you didn't think you could do is huge. But I think there's this other layer of what you just talked about, is putting yourself in different situations to meet different people and to be in different settings and different environments. And it goes back to what you were talking about how our society loves to put people in boxes. And we love to just, you fit in this box and you fit in this box. And none of us really do fit in any of those boxes, right? We are so multidimensional. You are so phenomenally multidimensional. We all are, right? And remembering that everybody we work with is as well. And when you take somebody who's only done corporate and put them in a trades world, or put somebody who's in a trades world their whole life and put them in corporate, and like that meeting of different types of people and experiencing difference in a different way is huge and life-changing. Like learning the trades for me was also so much confidence building and learning. It was life lessons. It wasn't even just about learning how to fix cars. It was learning about life.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree.
Okay, you have laid a ton of wisdom, ton of great little nuggets. And I feel like you kind of did that just now, but I want to do one final, like if you had the chance to talk to little baby Brooke, the little younger you, or maybe what you tell your daughters, like what is your biggest like words of wisdom and advice for them?
I guess when you're going through a tough time, keep going, you know, and have confidence, because I didn't have confidence. I was always ashamed, especially with like having obsessive compulsive disorder and you know, a lot of people talk about that, like they'll move something and be like, oh, it's that's my OCD, but real OCD, it's debilitating, especially with Tourette's and stuff. But it would be no matter what are dealing with, just use the hand that you have. Don't try to be somebody else. Embrace who you are. And that's your power, you know, like your quirkiness, whatever, that's just embrace that, you know. And also, I guess my advice to myself would be to not take things so personally. People are dealing with things you know nothing about. Everyone has a story, and just to be true to yourself and just keep going. You know, that would be my biggest advice.
Perfect note to end on. I so appreciate you spending part of your day with me. This was fantastic getting to know you, and I feel like we've just scratched the surface. There's so much more to talk about. For now, though, I'm going to let you get on with the rest of your day. Be respectful of your time. Thank you so very much. Folks at home, I hope you guys enjoyed meeting Brooke as much as I did. What an incredible journey she has been on. And I get the feeling that it is just getting started. She's had so many dynamic different careers and dynamic different things that she's done in her life, and I think we're just getting started. So you definitely want to make sure you follow along on her journey and show her some support and some love. Leave comments down below. Let us know what you thought. If you've got a woman that we should meet, somebody that should be featured on an episode, let us know that as well. And of course, if you've got a topic or something that you'd like to see us chat about on an episode of With Her Two Hands, let us know. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this journey once again to help normalize women in the trades, increase our numbers, and increase the visibility so that more young girls can grow up knowing that they can do anything they set their minds to. She can see it, she can be it. Thank you guys for being a part of that. And once again, thank you to our partner for tonight's episode, Drive Time. If you're not familiar with them, definitely go check out their link below. They do a ton of great work for women in the industry. And of course, are the partner for my Shop Girl Gang Garage on our current charity build. If you're not familiar with that, definitely go check that out on my Instagram and on my shop's Instagram, Girl Gang Garage. And with that, I'm going to let you guys go for the night. Have a fantastic rest of your evening. Make sure you come back next week for another live episode to meet another incredible tradeswoman. And of course, every Monday for another archive episode. Until next time, guys, be good to yourselves, be good to one another, be good human beings, and we'll see you next time.